We are ready to go with match number 1 today, and it's going to be che0nsu versus Surrender. Arguably the best performing player of this season in the form of che0nsu on the right there, and maybe one of the best performing players just in APAC throughout a career on the left in the form of Surrender. So both players, I think, for this season at least, have been bringing consistently just nothing too flashy, but just very solid lineup after solid lineup. And I think they've been rewarded for it with that combined with consistent play.
I agree. I think it's also been the fact that they've been slightly ahead of the curve with the rest of Asia Pacific. Like, I think if they'd been playing the decks they've been playing in other regions, they honestly might have had a bit more difficult of a time. It's just the fact that in Asia Pacific we do have a slightly different metagame, which isn't necessarily to say it's worse. I do get the feeling, though, the fact that all the other regions had an abundance of Priest a couple of weeks before Asia Pacific did, and now we do. And the fact that so many of Asia Pacific players are copying Hunter Ace's lineup. Like, I think the majority of players have suffered from that. Surrender and che0nsu, it feels like they haven't. They've been ahead of the curve of the rest of the Asia Pacific players, and they're being rewarded for it. che0nsu had a fantastic record, and Surrender already qualified through to BlizzCon in just a few weeks' time.
Yeah, I mean, Surrender, one of the first players who brought Combo Priest.
True.
As well as just, there was a couple of others as well. But yeah, just jumping on that, even 1 week earlier, we can see how close the standings are.
Oh, yeah.
And if you get ahead in 1 week, so you 2-0 1 week because you were ahead of the curve in terms of decks, well, that's the difference between qualifying and not, or getting first place or getting fourth place. Like, it's huge. And again, as we see, there's a couple of tech cards, obviously, Plague of Murlocs we've seen splashed around in these Asia Pacific Quest Shaman decks, as well as a few other tech cards. But overall, they're just bringing the good stuff. And although I will say, and I'll say it a few times probably, I want there to be more spice in the lineups for Asia Pacific. I want someone to just really push it out there and just bring something unexpected. I think with specifically che0nsu, Surrender, and a couple of other players, if you can bring good stuff and outplay your opponents in mirror matches or similar lineup mirrors, then you know what? Keep doing it. You're winning. Like, I'm not going to argue with that. It's the players who are either middling or falling behind a little bit that I think they have to pull something out of the bag a little bit.
Yeah, that's what I like about che0nsu, is that a lot of players in Asia Pacific are going for the strategy of just bring the best decks. But their perception of what the best decks are, I think, is slightly flawed. Whereas che0nsu is going for the bring the best deck strategy, but he's actually bringing the best decks. Like, he just has the best lines. Yeah, exactly, unlike some of the other players.
Okay, well, a matchup we spoke a lot about yesterday, and we're going to get right back into it, is just Shaman versus Priest.
This was so interesting yesterday. I've been thinking about this matchup so much, just even after we got home after Grandmasters.
And didn't Surrender play 2 of those matchups
Yes,
yesterday?
He played it on both sides. Right,
yeah.
But when he was playing against, what was it? It was Flurry that he was playing against yesterday?
I thought, che0nsu?
Let me have a look.
Just making stuff up.
It was che0nsu, you're correct.
Oh,
nailed it.
Didn't even check.
Yeah, they were both playing. They played it both sides, Priest versus Shaman, and the Shaman won both times.
Yes.
The Priest lost both matchups, and it felt like both players were playing too much around mind control tech, but at the same time not playing enough around mind control tech. Like, you have to commit one way or the other. It feels like you have to play around it for the whole game, or just say at the start of the game, they don't have it. I'm not going to play around it and just go all in. And it was super interesting how it was played.
Yeah, and honestly, the opinions on just that play style interest me greatly, because honestly, imagine if I said to you, okay, we're gonna play a game of Hearthstone. You can never have more than 3 minutes on the board for the whole game.
Yeah.
You'd be like, wait, what?
That's not fair.
Yeah, hang on. But that's the way they were playing.
Yeah.
Yesterday, and I don't know if that's correct. Yeah.
Me neither. I'm honestly just not sure.
Well, I was going to say this is looking really bad, and it kind of is for Surrender, as che0nsu has got off to a really good start so far.
Yep.
But Surrender does have 2 Mogus, which, without a mutate, you can argue how strong they are. But 2 of them, you can often play them both in the same turn if you get them decently cheap.
Yeah.
And it means that suddenly 6 damage worth of trade is actually pretty powerful.
It really is, and that is how Surrender's going to have to do this. His deck does not run an Earthshock, and it does not run a Plague of Murlocs, which means he has to get through these minions the old-fashioned way, with just minion trade. So if che0nsu is able to make a board or a minion big enough that it cannot be killed off by extra Mogus, extra Kobolds, things like that, Surrender is just out. And it looks like he might get there.
I'm like...
Yeah. Like, next turn, Divine Spirit in a Fire. it's looking pretty strong. Like obviously che0nsu can lower the health, so maybe that doesn't come down next turn.
But the best part is there's potential that he just trades into Psycho Pump
exactly.
and the turn after.
It's looking reasonably strong, we'll go with.
Surrender just not quite got the goods.
Yeah.
If only that Lackey was a faceless, then he could actually play double Mogu this turn. It'd actually be insane.
Oh, that's true, yeah, that's true.
He's just like one minion or one mana kind of off actually being able to clear
if he
this
goes,
off.
no, you can play them both anyway.
I just missed out. I miscounted. Man, this is sick.
He could have had a mana spare if he'd gone through it with the.
What was I thinking?
I think
I was thinking about
the first one discounted.
I think I was thinking about Hero Power.
Well, in that case, it is pretty nice here for Surrender to be able to kill it off. Whether or not it's good enough in the face of this is another question.
Oh, I think it is, right? He can clear almost all of the board.
He can actually, yeah.
It's a little bit annoying because he loses both Mogus, but I'm not being funny, but if you lose both Mogus to clear a pre-spawn twice, like...
You take that.
Yeah?
The problem is, then Pomp number 2 hits the board.
I mean, yes.
And has a very high chance of rezzing a Tolvik, given that 3 will have died.
He's got a reasonable chance of rezzing a Pompadump as well, so...
You take that.
Alright, give it an Inventor.
I always like ordering a size of
Yeah, I want it. Have a farmer with some Psycho Pumpers.
Here you go. Well, that is the nightmare for che0nsu. And it's pretty unfortunate, actually. But it's the chance for Surrender. This is how he wrestles things back.
Yeah.
That needed to happen. Quest now completed. Surrender can start to do some pretty powerful things in his own right. This is a lot closer than I thought it was going to be.
I think Surrender should probably hero power into Novice.
I think so too.
Draw more cards and look at the board.
Nothing.
Look at the board. Like three attack minion does nothing.
Yeah. Yeah, this is absolutely a novice turn.
And this is very quickly turned into a winnable game for Surrender.
I wonder.
When you grab a cheeky win versus a priest, you're pretty happy.
Love a cheeky priest win.
I hope you like my invention.
I really like this. The stuff he can get is really good.
Okay, you know, if he can find himself a mutate to go with the Giggling Inventor, or
what about just
I don't know, Sandstorm, bouncing it, yeah, stuff like that.
He's got Bug Slasher, right? So
a way to clear the board is starting to look pretty strong, if he can find it.
Meanwhile, che0nsu one turn away from dropping Bonsandi. Which is going to be a power play.
Yeah, which draws him like 5 1-drops at this point, right? It's insane.
Has he even played a 1-drop?
He's got the 1 in hand, that's it.
Yeah. Well, sorry, he's got 1.
Speak to me.
So che0nsu is still taking a somewhat slower approach. Still plays around mind control tech. I don't think that's that much of a concern right now. It's more just trying to stay ahead on the board.
I guess that's kind of spreading his threats a little bit. I just wondered whether he should have just buffed the Psycho Pump.
To keep them all in play.
Or
he would have had to trade away the...
You could still do that trade, but just buff the Reborn minion.
Right, I
see.
see.
So it gets like... I guess it's 2 for 1 if it gets stolen or traded. Because you deal with the buffed minion and the Reborn of the Psycho Pump. So I guess it is just spreading threats, but...
Yeah, I think this is okay. It's strong against mind control tech. It's pretty good against Sandstorm as well, given how bad Sandstorm could be. Like, you draw 2 cards, you're left with a 3-1.
I wonder.
I think it might just be a Giggling Inventor here, right?
It's definitely what I'm looking at most heavily.
Probably lives, so you then Bog Slosh and can, with Hero Power and can do it again.
Yeah.
It's kind of like evolving a Giggling Inventor over the course of a couple of turns.
Totem Bog Slosher Totem, and just don't press the Hero Power this turn. It gives you a 2/4. Yeah, it doesn't feel great.
Wait, you would press the Hero Power. So it won't be 2.
Well, sorry, if you wanted to go Evil Totem, Bog Slosh.
Oh, that Totem. Okay, I got confused.
Sorry, yeah, it was ambiguous.
Totem. I thought you meant Bog Slosh the Totem, replay the Totem.
Sorry.
I was like, huh? You've got plenty of mana.
I got you, friend.
Well, I thought I missed something for a second there. I thought that was just lethal.
Yeah, he played it
so
quickly.
Wait, I didn't add this up. What's going on?
I thought he'd drawn another Divine Spirit off the top.
Yeah, I was like,
yeah.
well, I mean, This is che0nsu saying, let's roll.
It is, and as long as he trades in here to play around mind control tech, I'm a happy chappy. I think, you know, I was wondering yesterday if players were playing around it too much and not enough. This is absolutely a situation where you just don't give your opponent the chance. Yeah. I guess he was wondering whether he double trades or single trades, but this seems fine to get the extra damage through as well.
Surrender can buy time, though. It's just whether that time's going to do enough.
Like, even being able to take out the beaming sidekicks, pretty good, actually, just to put more blockers in the way.
What if you don't want to?
What do you mean?
Make him play into mind control tech. Just don't trade into
point.
it.
Yeah, that's an interesting point. Yeah, because then nothing's actually
nothing
even
dies.
able to die.
Yeah, nothing actually dies. I think I'd leave it.
Yeah, I guess. Each Annoyatron is so important, though, to stop you from dying. Like, if it's the difference between an extra turn or not. But at the same time, what's his win condition? Yeah, maybe his win condition.
He needs to discover a lackey and get X. Or Earth Jump.
Yeah, that's it. It's
like, but is that more likely than getting a mind control tech off? Like,
well, actually, having said that, 14 health is not insurmountable levels. Like when you hit 20 health or something like that, it's impossible to ever kill it with minions, pretty much, for all intents and purposes. Whereas here, 14 health, he may be able to break through it. You know, 6 health with the Wasp, 4 health from the minion of the spell power. It's doable. It's definitely doable. It's just difficult, is the problem. But with a Wild Pyromancer being picked up, it gets more difficult.
Yeah, Topsy's not bad either.
What does he Topsy? The Psychopomp?
I think that's fine.
Yeah.
Do you think you can just get away with? Yeah, I was literally just gonna say, do you think you can just get away with just playing Bonsamdi this turn? You play around MCT still. You put big dudes on the board. Just chuck the Psychopomp into the other shield.
Like Wild Pyromancer's not that good on this turn. I guess
is he scared of bouncing?
Factor in the cards that it draws.
Is he scared of bouncing?
But if he is, then you can just play Wild Pyromancer afterwards and do a bunch of cool stuff then, right?
But I just mean, like, if Surrender then bounces the Giggling Event and replays it, that's just more turns of, like, delay.
Yeah, exactly. But I'm saying if you hold back the Pyromancer, then once they replay the Giggling, you can use the Pyromancer to kill off the Annoyatrons.
Well, anyway, che0nsu did not go for it, kept Bonsamdi. I guess if,
I don't think I like this
maybe if worst case scenario happens,
yeah,
Bonsamdi's his comeback, right?
Fair.
He doesn't just lose if this board gets dealt with, right? I think that's also reasonable. I think it was really close. Because if you see now, if something does happen to this Acolyte, he just drops Bonsamdi and his opponent's on 10. Who needs buffs when your one minion nearly kills your opponent anyway?
I guess this plays around Plague of Murlocs, right? Like, which is one of the ways that you could possibly lose. Yeah.
It was a tough. That was a close one, but this is just the questions over and over again. Is one, I feel like Quest Shaman has a lot of room for either tech cards or just different builds of the deck. I think there's a lot of flex in that somewhere. But also, is it worth putting more tech cards in the deck to help with that? Because when we were looking, it's like, well, Surrender's not really got any draws that deal with this card. So do you just take the loss? You know, it's just, it feels weird, right? To say, oh, if I queue this matchup, unless something goes really much my way, I just lose.
I think usually I'm in favor of just having the standard good deck list rather than putting tech cards in. In this exact instance with Shaman versus Priest, though, I get the feeling that it's probably worth putting it in your Conquest lineup, mainly because if you put an Earthshock, say, in your deck or a Plague of Murlocs, the way it makes your opponent play is so weird.
Right?
Like, they have to warp their game plan. They can't do their powerful stuff because maybe you have it. It's not even having it. It's the potential of having it.
It's in there. You could have it in your hand, so the opponent has to consider it.
And we saw that from Surrender yesterday when he couldn't make the plays he wanted to against Shaxi because there was the Plague of Murlocs. And so I think for Surrender here, I like his list. Like, this is the best ladder list in my opinion.
Yeah, just queue up and go.
I'm not sure if it's necessarily the best Conquest list. I think some kind of a nod to Priest is something to consider very heavily.
Yeah, well, we can get more into it as this series is, of course, going to continue. But so far, che0nsu taking a 1-0 win over Surrender. We'll be right back with game number 2.
well known for their top-notch performance and long-time efforts in the local fan community. We've created a special and memorable Hearthstone-themed weekend.
Music Time Stadium.
che0nsu versus Surrender is kicking off match number 1 today, and we're about to go into game number 2 as che0nsu took a win with his Priest over Surrender Shaman, and now I believe it is going to be Shaman Mirror as both players have queued it up.
A matchup I've been playing a fair bit over this last week in my practice games, I suppose. A matchup that I've learned a lot about. It's one of the things that you have to learn about Quest Shaman in what the deck is actually good at. I was talking to you a little bit about this, in that a lot of the things that you kind of think are good about the deck are not really the things you're often looking for. Just the fact that it's called Quest Shaman, like the name of a deck can often distract you from what's actually the powerful bit of the deck. Like Quest Shaman, it's not just about the quest. There's about fighting for early tempo for me in a lot of instances in these matchups, because while it absolutely can be a very grindy, long value fest later on, a lot of the time I found that one player in the early game can just absolutely run away, the other player runs out of cards, and the game's over by like turn 6 or 7.
Card draw's a pretty big deal. We do see Novice just get thrown away for che0nsu in the opening hand. He does have Quest Explorer, which is nice. Yeah. But yeah, for me, outside of MCT, there isn't really a way to come back on the board unless unless you've generated a ton of cards and you have like rushed lackeys and damaged lackeys or generated spells. You know, there's no consistent way to actually fight for the board apart from minions just headbutting each other until someone wins.
The questing explorers for both players, I guess it somewhat balances out with both players finding at least one. But I really like for che0nsu on the mulligan keeping the Sandstorm Elemental. I think that is often a very, very powerful card in the matchup purely because of cards. As we're seeing, like Sludge Slurper plus Lackey obliterates that. The Rat plus Lackey, or even just
good.
Novice Engineer. Exactly. It
helps trade up as well. You know, look at this. If there wasn't the bounce, well, the Elemental kills off the 2-1 and you hold a 2-1, which is actually pretty solid. So we'll see what the follow-up now, though, is. Might actually even see che0nsu going for a Cable Rat he could have gone for. He's gone for the stronger board presence, too. Oh, there we go. Okay. I wonder if he should have gone for the Cable Rat first.
See what you get.
Yeah, if you got the Rush Lackey, then it's just a good trade.
Rush Lackey. Would you play Witchy Lackey there as well?
Maybe.
Of course, it's the right way.
Yeah, maybe, because you're not the only 1-mana card you have is Sludge Slurper, and I guess you'd play Sludge Slurper over Coin Rat there.
Maybe.
Because then you go into 3 mana next turn, but you still have the coin, so you could go Coin, Lackey, Weaponized Wasp, because he's clearly setting up for Lackey Wasp on the following.
I just think the odds on you getting a Lackey you will play versus the one card in your deck you're going to draw. This does put a bigger body on board, of course.
And I think the other difference is also that he really, really wants to be able to go Lackey Wasp next turn. And if he played the Lackey, and so he's probably come to a conclusion, I'm never playing the Lackey this turn.
Interesting.
Not necessarily true.
Yeah, just playing the Explorer into the Bog Slasher just feels bad, right?
Of course, yeah, that's true.
And look how good the Elemental is. Evolve into a 4/4, reasonable.
I think I like that, with nothing better to evolve in hand.
Well, this is just the respect for the board, isn't it? Like, don't leave a 3-1 on the board that's going to be traded away by a Cable Rat. Leave a 4/4 and look at the strength. Surrender's almost got 2 Yetis on board if you kind of add it up in the same way. Versus just a 2/1 and a 1/1, like that's insane. Do see the Wasp, of course, as you mentioned, the Lackey into Wasp. Great sort of board fighting tool. But these are all like single target tools. There's no really good AoE, right?
Yeah, as soon as one player pulls drastically into the lead, that's when things just slip away completely. Because this Quest Shaman deck has no single target hard removal, and it has no wide board AoE removal either. It's very, very susceptible to any kind of a big push onto the board.
Let's see, taste their own medicine now for these wasps. How does it feel to be stung by another wasp?
Is that possible? Could a wasp sting a wasp?
Yeah, of course they could, right?
I don't know.
I mean,
it has to be physically possible for a wasp
to
sting
exactly,
wasp.
right? If a wasp can sting me, would it hurt them?
Do they get wasp stinged? Like the
poison or whatever?
Venom or whatever it is?
Yeah, it's venom, isn't it?
I don't know.
Yeah, because poison's... So do you know the difference between poison and venom?
Poison is ingest.
Yeah.
Venom is
Poison's something
inject.
you can hurt yourself if you lick it.
Yeah, if you eat venom, you're fine.
Yeah. Wait, did you say if you eat venom, you're fine?
Well, yeah, that's the difference, right? Is venom has to be injected into your bloodstream, whereas poison, if you eat it...
Surely if you eat something, it gets into your bloodstream anyway, though, right?
Maybe I'm wrong here.
Look, let's give Dog a call. But I do know that generally the difference is like venom is injected via some kind of thing, whereas you could just lick a frog and die, right? If it's poisonous.
Yes.
You know what I mean? It doesn't actually like insert the poison.
Right. But I'm saying that, you know, like when you get a snake bite, you're supposed to suck it out.
Well, you're not, but...
Well, okay, but well, no, you are supposed to do that, right? To get the venom out. I'm not.
I mean, you're supposed to go to hospital.
Don't take my advice. If you're currently being bitten by a snake...
I actually have some experience in this, so I'm pretty sure you're supposed to go to hospital.
Well, yes, I would recommend going to a hospital anyway. But if you're out in the middle of nowhere, no hospitals about...
Then what are you doing there? You deserve it, is my response.
Harsh words coming in from Raven. I could be wrong. I am no venom expert. Haven't even seen the film.
Jeez. I've seen snakes on a plane. Is that where your experience is going from? The realism of snakes on a plane?
Yeah, if you get bitten by a snake, you're supposed to stick it in a microwave, turn it up, and explode it.
We could talk about this for a while, but let's talk about some Hearthstone
I
instead.
wonder.
Well, yeah, in the Hearthstone world, wasps can sting wasps.
Yes, we saw it happen.
It's what we've realized.
Right now, though, Surrender's got some nice trades. Not only is this kind of playing around MCT, he can trade the 1/1 in to get rid of it from Elemental being a problem. So Bog Slosher dodges Hero Power Elemental too. Like, this is all just looking fantastic for Surrender. This is the way you want your game to go.
And I think it's a perfect demonstration of in this matchup, the deck does so much better when you're on the front. But like, it does better of locking out a game where you're ahead than pulling back a game where you're behind. Because che0nsu, you know, che0nsu had some powerful stuff this game, man. Like, being able to go for the Wasp with the Lackey, clearing up a lot of the board, it was powerful plays. But at the moment, it looks like it may not be enough. Because he's just making low tempo plays now.
Yeah, look at this. This evolve has to be great, right? And it's a great card, but not in this circumstance, because it's already dead.
Right.
Just doesn't know it yet.
Just, that's a real low roll there.
And again, just the buffed Slurper into a Lackey, into a snipe on the Rhino just seems great. Just get him. And you also can get to a point where MCT doesn't really make a difference. Well, okay, make a difference is too strong of me to say. Hero Power MCT would make a huge difference if he goes 5 minions on board, of course. But I think Surrender should really put his foot down while he can.
How does he do that, though? Because you always have to be careful of what are the outs for my opponent, which generally the answer is mind control tech if they go for MCT and manage to swing the board back.
About you Lackey put the Wasp with the Hero Power obviously done to face and trade the Dwarf and the 3/3 into the Rhino? Is that too crazy?
So you have a weaker board for MCT.
So if he steals stuff, it's probably weak and you can deal with it. Am I going like too crazy?
How weak does that get to Sandstorm Elemental? I think it's not that bad, honestly. Like,
yeah, if he Sandstorms this board, though, you end up with what, a 6/3 on the board and a 3/1 Wasp at worst.
Yeah, if he steals the 4/6 and the 6/5 here, I think you're actually starting to worry then as Surrender. Things could go wrong then.
I do kind of just like it, though.
Just saying you have to have it.
If you don't have exactly your MCT, you're just very dead. And I think that's fair to say. I think maybe players are getting a little bit too sheepish about playing around mind control.
I think that's a very valid criticism.
It's literally only mind control.
Yes, that's the only thing. And this is still a powerful swing back with the board, don't get me wrong. But is it strong enough? Now Surrender has a full 7-mana turn where he can start loading up his own power plays.
Interestingly enough, a couple of options. Surrender could go for damage and value with card draw and the life drinker to set up into Shudderwalk, or he could just go Giggling Inventor to set up into a Shudderwalk that's then safe again the turn after. Two different routes. They do two different things. One just creates a lot of stuff, whereas the other one plays a more aggressive line.
When you're talking about setting up Shudderwalk, are you considering it for next turn or just in general?
Yeah.
I think he's got enough other stuff in hand to the point where he can not go for Shudderwalk quite yet.
But do you think you need a value Shudderwalk, or do you just want a 6/6
a tempo
stuff?
Shudderwalk.
Like 6/6, more Lackeys?
Maybe, yeah, a couple of Noia shots.
Yeah,
maybe you're right.
Now some more damage with the life drinker, you know? I don't know.
Definitely something to consider.
There's been bounces, there's been Titanic Lackey's been played for Surrender. Also, small note, patch came in this morning, I believe, fixed.
Oh, really?
Yep. We can see his face.
Yeah,
it's returned to us.
The proof is in that pudding. Yeah, holding back the zap. I think Surrender agrees with you. He wants to go for some kind of at least have the option for tempo Shudderwalk.
Yeah. And in general, of course, I don't have a mental list of every single battlecry Surrender's played. Very difficult in the Shame and Mirror to keep track of who's done what. But I think it's strong enough to play, especially if he already has board, because then the Bog Slosher bounce is actually pretty sick.
Yeah.
You know, health buffs are pretty sick.
Oh yeah, I mean, I think we're looking at like double Bog Slosher, double Sludge Slurper, Bog Slosher,
spell
Titanic.
Discovers Lackey generation. That's what I mean, right? And you get a 6/6.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know. Looks good to me.
Yeah. I suppose, well, as it currently stands, it looks like Surrender may just win with Shadow Walk next turn. But if that's not good enough, Hero Power Giggling, push face with the rest, and then go for Shadow Walk the turn after also looks pretty strong as well.
Also, if he Shadow Walks and just rock by his face the turn after, that might be lethal.
That also might just do it.
It's just 3 damage from hand.
Whoa.
Two.
Former champ is
Fun.
just no defensive maneuvers at all.
Could draw for lethal, I guess. But is that ever better than Shudder?
I'm just wondering if you go trade the Titanic Lackey into the 1/1, Hero Power, Giggly Inventor, and then push face with everything.
What to do?
It's probably fine.
Probably fine.
I think
yeah.
Surrender's more trying to work out if anything he does loses him the game,
Yeah,
as
yeah.
opposed to how he wins. He just plays Hearthstone
Yeah.
for the rest of the game and then he wins.
Yeah.
But it's more if he does anything silly. I mean, just look at that from yesterday, right? Shaxi didn't trade an Acolyte in when he could have. He lost the game.
To
Yep.
do.
Whereas if he didn't, he almost certainly wins that game. So I think Surrender's more just thinking, what shouldn't I do on this turn? He's going to get double draw. Not too bad. Plenty of his deck left, so that Shudder Walk into this extra draw isn't going to be a problem. That's a good pickup as well. Not lethal, but a good pickup.
Yeah, he can still go Shadow Walk, of course, next turn.
And I think he
even if
plays the
that.
Elemental, right? Because you want it in the pool.
Please tell me. Yeah, okay. I was going to say, if he starts trading here, I'd be like, I don't think he understands his advantage. But yeah, by pushing the 3 damage with Rock Bites, I think this
Now
is...
it's heal or
Absolutely
bust, and if che0nsu heals, he's probably dead on board.
That's right, exactly. And this makes sense, you know, fitting in the Rock Biter this turn to just guarantee lethal next turn unless there's heal, I think is very smart.
Also, funnily enough, he can actually now play a Lackey first, then Shudder Walk to try and get the Wasps for lethal.
That's true.
Not guaranteed, of course, because
Yeah.
they aim randomly, but still, worth a shout. I think I would always do it.
I don't know if I would. I think I'd rather upgrade something at the end.
I guess that's true. Well, I'm just thinking, like,
Random 3 damages flying around.
it's just tough for you miss some stuff, right? Health buffs, fog slashes, you know, abilities. If there's no minion on your side, none of those battle cries actually happen. Whereas if you have a minion down already, then they can hit that 1/1.
Yeah.
Strong turn though from che0nsu. Goes up to 9.
There's little time.
Definitely not dead.
He had the card to survive. This is exactly what he needed to not
The
just be dead
taunt's
on the
huge
spot.
as well.
Yeah, yeah, of course.
Spicy. You can steal 3 minions this turn.
Engaging TC-130.
Let's go.
Mental dislocation.
Wow, that was bad. Wow,
That was bad. Pretty much the 2 worst options.
Look at che0nsu just smiling straight. He's like,
Damn right.
noob.
Get on my level.
I put those there so you would steal them. You
Yeah.
fell for my trap.
This is where Surrender just says, actually, you can have this one back.
Yeah,
And
can I just do a quick return? What's your returns policy on these minions, IMCT?
Engaging TC-130. Mental
There we go.
dislocator.
So I guess it's pass?
Sandstorm just really does nothing.
Yeah.
Softens up the board. Yeah.
Makes this trade worse, look.
Fair enough.
6
fair
health to 5.
enough. And it's just, you know, you play it right. You can still play Shadow Walk next turn, just have the most amount of stuff in play as possible. As drawing for che0nsu is his only hope to pull things back.
I hope you
Again,
like my
going for
invention.
an evolve, I think.
MCT something. Mogu,
So double trade Mogu into an MCT,
bounce it.
but can it be replayed with bounce? There'll be 1, 2.
I think so.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it can be replayed. And it's buffed. I think that's the best he's got.
Yeah.
I wonder.
He would then leave 5 damage on board, so he wouldn't be dead to Shadow Walk.
In most circumstances.
In most circumstances, yes.
Yeah,
Especially
because Surrender's only
overload.
1 life into race.
Yeah, I think so. Okay.
Autumns are so
Oh, so he's doing it this way to try and...
Yeah.
But he
And then trade. It's,
what does
it's the same thing.
change anything, right? Did he actually just...
It's just worse, I think, right? Because he has a more damaged Mogu at the end.
Yeah, because if he loses both minions, he would have gone boop, 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 boop. Yeah, this is the same.
I think this is just worse. If the Mogu was still playable after trading into the MCT, which I think it was, right?
I think it was. I think, well, I counted 7.
Yeah.
Which would have been enough, right?
Either
way. That is also known as game. And Surrender evens the series up in the Shaman mirror. Surrender did look like he had a good hold of that game for what? Since midway through, I would say. I think early game there was a bit of back and forth, but definitely from midway it looked very, very strong. Surrender just keeping a stranglehold on that game. There was the push from che0nsu, but wasn't quite enough. And to be fair, Surrender still had a pretty solid shoulder walk, especially after playing double MC tech. Means that he could have just shoulder walked into that board and stole half of it anyway, so it would have looked pretty good.
And I think it was very good understanding from Surrender, using his cards like Mutate somewhat liberally to just lock down board, bouncing back the Questing Explorer, of course, to make sure he got big minions on board. It just showed early on you're just trying to lock down board, pull as far ahead as you can, and from then on in, the damage came through, and che0nsu did not have the removal to clear it away.
Yeah, and now both players, funnily enough, got a win each. Now there's the Priest and then Shaman have got a win either side. So now I wonder if we're just going to see like a backwards mirror, maybe.
Of Shaman versus Priest.
Yeah, but
the other way around. Yeah, maybe.
I mean, it wouldn't be crazy queues, right? I don't think they would anyway.
Because for che0nsu, Surrender's on the Priest, which we just got confirmation he is playing. And like you said, che0nsu is going to the Shaman with his only other remaining deck being the Druid. The Druid that he had left, which, against Priest, pretty much a nightmare. As with the Shaman.
I don't know.
Would you rather have
Druid? A part
Druid?
of me thinks I'd rather play Druid, as crazy as that sounds.
He's got Plague of Murlocs in there. That counts for a fair amount as the Shaman.
Maybe, yeah. I don't know. A part of me just thinks
you've had a miserable time in this match.
Yeah. If you don't die as the Druid in the first few turns, even with high health, you have a 5-drop that deals 10 damage. Like, that's insane.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
You know, in terms of catching up with Priest, and as soon as you push them off the board, they never get it back because of Starfall, because of some taunts that you get for free. Obviously, you have enough card draw, you can gain health and armor, which can negate some of the attacks. So, don't get me wrong, Druid versus the Priest ain't a good matchup, but I definitely don't think it's the worst. Let's go into it. Deciding game between these two players. che0nsu has a chance to go 9-1, which would be crazy. But Surrender could just go 6-4 and knock che0nsu down a tiny bit to close that gap just a little bit, but most importantly, just stay ahead of the curve in that sort of clumped up middle of Division A.
And if Surrender can take a win here, if you think back to week 2 where he had a 1-3 record, you know, obviously no matter where you take your losses, it's kind of the same thing, but it makes it more impressive when you consider the last few weeks, how much he's improved. He's just come straight back so strong.
Yeah, I think timing of losses doesn't matter in the cold hard facts of results, but it definitely matters in terms of the player, right?
That's true.
Because if a player is like lost one, you're like, it's a very average result.
Yeah,
if a player loses for 3 weeks, it can happen, and then wins the rest, you're like, oh, okay, this player's pretty good. Because everyone, like, 3 weeks is 6 matches, right? You can just lose 6 matches. That's just not even a large sample size. But if they then go on like a streak of winning and don't really let up, then you think, well, something's actually going more right than wrong. Which whereas I think just a back and forth win-loss is just, well, you've just done all right throughout the whole season.
I completely agree. We saw that with Staz last season where he was doing pretty terribly the first half, and then something clicked with Hunter. He saw the light of the face and managed to turn things around.
This could be a few options here. Neverset just lines up versus the 0-2. You don't really want che0nsu, or Surrender doesn't really want che0nsu to have too many lackeys, because the problem with that is that lackeys are the things that do win you games versus Priest, I feel, as well as a Mogu and double evolve. Or mutate. I should stop saying evolve, but evolve is the mechanic, right? So it's kind of... It's just because there was a card obviously called Evolve, but it's hard to not say Evolve, even though there's probably people like, it's Mutate, not Evolve.
Well, that's the interesting thing, is that the mechanic was never actually called Evolve. It's just that's what you call it.
Yeah, the first card that did that was called Evolve.
Yeah. It is a very, very cool mechanic.
And it makes sense,
right? You evolve it,
And that, you see what I mean? Where the lackeys are the cards that make the difference, I feel, in this early game. Like, Rush, you can now kill a minion instead of not killing a minion versus Priest, game winning.
And this is where things do get tricky for che0nsu. His starting hand was less than incredible. And che0nsu has the hand in his own right to really, really start pulling into
Just
the
has
lead.
double evolve in hand after playing a mutate. That's impressive. Well,
Wow.
here we go.
Yeah, che0nsu throws his hands up.
High reeks it though. He can't play the Witchy Lackey.
It's no high reek, but it's still a bad outcome.
Yep.
If che0nsu can clear it off, he's looking okay.
If is a big if, isn't it?
Yeah,
5/5
I
still.
don't think there's any way in the deck to clear it off, really. I mean, sorry, there are ways, but it's very, very difficult.
It's far fetched.
Yes.
Just with a big lance and shield.
He could use that right now, I reckon.
Honestly, is like a pyro play just not so bad here? Put the 1/2 into the totem. Do pyro like shield maybe?
Ah, there's no other cheap spell. If you had one other, I'd like
I just
it.
think maybe he has to do this over the course of a couple of turns,
Yeah,
and it's gonna hurt. But he still has Psycho Pump. He has arms. He has Cleric, and we all know when Cleric's involved, anything can happen.
What about just Psychobomb and go for the 50-50 to res Acolyte? Like, I think with Wild Pyromancer at the moment is the trump card for Surrender. He can't just play it, right? It's so weak.
But is it though? Like, you can give it
Or
health.
it could be so strong.
Yeah,
is what
well,
I should say.
I feel like this is strong though, because you can give it health. It forces a trade from che0nsu. Are you really expecting che0nsu to have that much to trade into?
It just dies on board though. Is the problem? Like the 5/4 can trade into. I guess if Surrender trades
puts the
into the
1/1 into
5/4,
it.
it can't value trade, which is quite nice. But is that better than killing an 0/1 totem? Yeah, he's saying that there's no Witchy Lucky in hand.
But also he ends up with this way he kills the totem and just on board ends up with a 1-attack minion to kill the Malacras anyway.
Yeah.
I think he had to do this. If he waits, well, you know, he might just lose. Like.
Of course, yeah.
And look at his hand. His hand is sick. To come back as long as he can. If he has a couple of bad turns clearing this and then
Maybe
just
you're
drops
right.
double Psycho Pump.
Yeah, I get
well,
your point. Yeah.
Mate, you only need that one free turn of as Priest, don't you, to really get ahead and win the game?
Yeah, of course.
There's no locks, although I don't really think it's that good at the moment. Probably clear this off and then you could do it.
Yeah, there's the punish for Surrender's line of play. The absolute nightmare.
That's 3 evolves by turn 5 with a Mogu is
you don't want those.
unfortunate is the word I'm going to use right now.
You just don't want these.
TC-130 into this location.
This is like the most aggressive start that Shaman can possibly make.
Yeah, like I said, even the Rush Lackey on the correct time to kill off the 2/3. Imagine if the Nephroset lived.
Yeah.
Like, the game just looks wildly different. It's insane if you get the right lackeys.
And obviously not this situation, but something similar to this is why I was thinking for Surrender it was worth saving the Pyromancer. Because my point was that while it was okay there, like I'm not denying that it was a strong play on that turn, I'm saying it might have needed to be miraculous to pull him back into the game.
Well, that's why you just made a second one.
I guess, yeah.
I'm just winding you
No,
up.
this is honestly a benefit of his line of play. Like,
Yeah,
this is
this
not
out
just
exists.
cheesing it. Exactly, yeah, this is something to consider. Of course, he used up the Power Word Shield, so he has to get another spell off the top.
And do you think he has to Topsy?
To kill
So
off
if
3/1
he doesn't,
probably,
the Pyro's just
probably.
dead anyway,
Yeah,
so
yeah.
who cares?
He
So
probably
just
does.
Topsy the pump?
Yeah.
Because then at least there's something.
I agree.
And I think he has to. Otherwise, the Pyro just dies for no reason.
I
At least
think
this does something. Pyro's killed 3 minions? Like,
che0nsu could draw dead now. The elementary reaction makes that more difficult, but it's still possible.
does he play Box Slasher?
Value trade with the MCT.
Because Elemental Reaction gets buffed, right?
Oh yeah, that's true. That's a
You know,
copy
do,
to
like,
that.
do you actually want
Yeah.
that raw value? Because
Yeah.
no, Box Slashing the MCT and replaying it isn't that
That's
bad
what I'm
after a
looking at.
trade, right?
Yeah, I think that's just fine.
And then you get really good Elemental Reaction next turn.
Yeah, I like that a lot. Imagine if he gets a rat or a sludge slurper.
Actually, if it almost in this deck draws any card.
Pretty
like,
much.
you know what I mean? That's what it feels like, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Shaman doesn't need exact draws most of the time. It just needs draws.
Until
Yep,
this
I like this a lot.
locator.
Yeah, this is just che0nsu playing well with cards that don't start in your deck. And
He hit the card. He hit the card. That is what Surrender needed.
look, with Neverset as well.
Yep. That's the card to pull him back into this game. How does he maneuver it, though? Cleric, extra arms, circle, and then Neverset. He's dying pretty quickly, though. He can't just be worrying about drawing cards. He has to stay alive as well.
Would you ever heal
someone injured?
instead of playing the Neverset and save the Neverset for like a big boy turn?
Maybe I'd decide after the second game. Like, this always
I'll
happens.
give you a minute.
Yeah.
Well, it's probably less than a minute, but
Okay, the trade first.
Yeah, this
here.
bit-
Yeah,
oh,
clear
this is
damage
good,
off the
this
board.
is
This
good.
is smart.
Surrender's done this before. 2 more draws.
che0nsu still has the backup of Plague of Murlocs.
Maybe that's not so bad though. Surrender has a ton of cards. He's got minions.
Yeah, having Murlocs to play would be fine. for him,
2
honestly.
more draws. Oh. Look at
He's just pulling ahead.
Priest is nuts.
Yeah, Priest is actually nuts.
He's just suddenly like, whoa, I've got so many cards.
Oh, che0nsu's getting some powerful cards in his own right, and Evil Cable Rat is absolutely one of the good ones.
He
That's
only
what
gets
you want.
one, I'll say, go at this on this turn though, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
He gets 1 lackey. It's rush.
Oh,
That's a
look
good
at
one.
that, though.
That's
That's
a good one.
huge.
Into the spell lackey as
Yeah.
well next turn to try and get earthquakes, to try and get hexes, earth shocks. Oh.
Then the problem is, on the other side for Surrender, he's found himself a Wild Pyromancer, and he's got spells to play. He can just sweep up the board.
So do you think he's, well, has he got spells to play? He's
Oh,
got 2.
Pyro, Extra Arms, Divine Spirit. That clears the board. As a
Yes.
baseline play.
Yeah, you know what? I think he should, right?
It's not, like, especially strong, and I'm not certain that it's better than just going Amet, Divine Spirit, Light Warden. Maybe that's just better. But he does obviously have to be a little afraid of these minions.
What if he...
You know what I mean? Like, making a big
What if he
Amet
goes, like,
is... There's not much of an answer.
Do you ever got like Psycho
Yeah.
Pump
See a
something?
dark future.
I wonder if he should have waited just 1 more turn and played some
In the
else.
light's name.
Maybe like Amit Psycho Pump was good. The turn after, maybe. I don't know. This is hard.
I think this was a good play to make. I think if like it's easy to get distracted by clearing up the board. If you just look at the objective power level of what he just did, it's absurd. It's absolutely
but
absurd.
I was just wondering whether there was ever like injured Tolvir Blade Master heal and then do like Psycho Pump Amit the turn after. Maybe. I don't know.
yeah, I see your point. I think this just sets up for the most ridiculous things. Like this means next turn, if this doesn't
could
get
just win.
answered,
Yeah. He
yeah,
could just win.
the game just ends next turn. Possibly.
And honestly, excuse me, sorry, it isn't really getting answered
No, I mean Plague of Murlocs is the best that che0nsu has.
because he's also can only do 12, even with the Rotbire weapon.
Yeah.
And Murlocs, oof, don't talk to me about Murlocs. They come back.
There's little time.
Even 2 Kobold lackeys.
He's just got to settle
I don't
lethal
think
now.
gets the job done.
Yeah, he's just going to go face, right?
Yeah,
He
that's
has
right.
insane damage from the lackeys. He has Rotbire. There's the Murlocs, and that looks...
Whoa!
Oh, he drew in a fire.
I mean, he's got a pyro and he's got a couple of
I
spells.
will say,
he
though,
can clear up.
he can, but che0nsu getting 3 of his Murlocs as 4 health
Yeah.
is so good.
Man, that was the face of madness from Surrender there. That was a broken man.
Oh, my. my.
That's like when you finally get to the top of the mountain after having seen Mogu Flesh Shaper, 3 mutate effects for that point, and then you look up and it's just you've just got to the top of the...
No, all this for Murlocs.
An avalanche of Murlocs falls down from the summit
Yeah.
10,000 feet higher.
Or you just go up to see, like, oh, the view's incredible. You need to go up. You climb the mountain, and there's just Murlocs taking photos
Everywhere.
anyway. But you can't even see anything. They're just being full tourists. Come on, Murlocs. Go away.
Can you take a picture of me? No.
Yeah.
I will not. Yeah. Now
Surrender doing what he's got to do.
One mana do literally nothing. Just to sweep up the board. And the amount of damage there, 8.
14,
That'll
is
do it.
lethal. che0nsu going up 9-1 in Season 2 of Hearthstone Grandmasters here. And Surrender going down to a 5-5 score. Not bad, middle of the line for Surrender. But che0nsu, wow, wow, wow. 9-1, Darren. That is sick.
That is very impressive. And, you know, honestly, while che0nsu got the absolute dream in that game, there's a couple of things you've got to reward him for. I think his play was very level-headed. I think he did pretty much everything correct over the course of that game. And also, he put Plague of Murlocs in his deck. A lot of other shamans did not do that to counter the priest. And I was just saying that I think it's honestly worth it in this meta when so many players are just insta-shielding their priest to lock in that game. I think it makes a lot of sense, and he was rewarded for that heavily in that game.
Yeah, it really was. And even if he didn't end up getting the full, good side of the stick in terms of his Murlocs, even if that you could just even it out across both players, it's like, what, 5 minions versus 2? Like, in 9 times out of 10, that just works out for you anyway. It's one of the kind of like weird semi-aggressive ways you can use it, as well as dealing with scary minions from Priest. So yeah, che0nsu's going to get the win there. Very impressive. Like I said, 9-1, you just can't really argue with at this point. That is just good Hearthstone. And next up, though,